So there's a stereotypical idea about teenagers that they're always like, no one understands me, no one understands who I am or what I want in life and blah blah blah. But in the case of Silent Hill 3, I think that's pretty accurate. Silent Hill 3 stars Heather, who is a 17-year-old girl, who everyone has plans for and projects their own desires onto her, and no one really seems to understand her or who she is or what she is. And I think this is pretty normal in life and stories as well. People have differences of opinion, and people will always see others in different ways. Silent Hill 3, more than anything else, I think is a story about identity. It's about coming to terms with who you are and what came before you, and trying to make sense of how others see you. In the story of Silent Hill 3, everyone has a different take on Heather, the protagonist. Heather is a 17-year-old girl, and honestly the first half of the game doesn't have a whole ton of story to it, which is kind of surprising given the previous games in the series. In Silent Hill 1, Harry Mason is looking for his daughter. In Silent Hill 2, James is looking for his wife. In Silent Hill 3, at the beginning of the game, Heather doesn't really have a clear objective the same way those two do. She likes going to the mall, she likes eating Happy Burger, she has nightmares about getting hit by roller coasters, normal stuff. But the thing is that no one actually fully understands Heather, least of all herself. You see, Silent Hill 3 is a direct sequel to the first game in the series. 7 years before the events of the first game, a magic ritual was attempted in Silent Hill. Heather has a really interesting thing going on because she's technically 3 separate people. You see, initially there was only Alessa, who was a 14-year-old girl who was sacrificed in a magic ritual to bring back the god of the Silent Hill cult. The ritual didn't go as planned, and Alessa, who was a girl with magic powers, was able to split her soul in half, essentially. She survived the burning, but half of her soul was transformed into Cheryl, who was a baby found on the side of the road by Harry Mason. Silent Hill 1 takes place 7 years after this attempted ritual, so by this point Cheryl is 7 and Alessa is 21. Once more, the magic ritual to birth the god is attempted, and it is stopped by Harry Mason. The two halves of Alessa, Cheryl, and Alessa join once more, and in the killing of the god, they give birth to another person, a new baby who becomes Heather. And Alessa, who at this point has combined with Cheryl, causing her to have a full soul once more, she is able to sacrifice herself so that way Harry Mason can escape the destruction caused by the death of the god. So I explained that as best I can, but I'm not sure that it will even make sense to anyone watching this. So right from the start, we can see that Heather's identity is kind of screwy and weird. And yes, that is a very professional diagnosis, by the way. So whenever we meet Heather in Silent Hill 3, she doesn't know any of this. But as you play through the game, Heather gets back her memories, essentially. Heather is not Alessa and she is not Cheryl, but she regains the memories of both those characters. She begins to remember who she was before she was Heather Mason. She is able to remember what it was like for Alessa getting bullied in school, or she is able to remember the ritual and what her life was like with Claudia as a child. But at the same time, she isn't those people. No one really understands Heather, and I think the best way to show this off is by talking about each character individually. Before Heather was born, back when Alessa was the only person around, Alessa had a friend, Claudia. Alessa and Claudia grew up in the same Silent Hill cult. They both had these visions and ideas about paradise and what it could look like. So whenever the events of the first game happened, and before then even, whenever Alessa was attempted to be sacrificed, Claudia lost her best friend. So upon seeing Heather, Claudia just talks to her like she is Alessa. She wants Heather to forget that she was anyone but Alessa, and she wants to use Heather to bring about the paradise that her and Alessa dreamt of. So she claims, at least. And the way she wants to do this is by birthing the god that Heather carries within her. You see, in Silent Hill 1, Harry did defeat the god that they were attempting to birth. But that didn't kill it completely. No, the god is still inside of Heather. Alessa, who is essentially the mother of the god, still has the power to give birth to that god. And seeing as how Alessa kind of transformed into Heather, Heather has that power as well. The events of the game are all about this. They are all about Heather's ability to give birth to the god of the cult. Heather doesn't want this. She doesn't want to give birth to some disgusting demon god. Claudia does want this, and she believes Heather wants it because that's what she thought Alessa wanted. Back when she knew Alessa before the entire burning and ritual, Claudia cannot see Heather as she currently is. Claudia only sees the Alessa that Heather once was. And that is a self that Heather knows and remembers, but she is not the same person as she once was, as evidenced by this cutscene.
Alessa? Is it you? Oh, how I've missed you.
I don't need another world. It's fine the way it is.
But you said it yourself. The world must first be cleansed with fire.
but that's not what I want now.
Alessa, don't you want happiness? Have you become blind to all the hopeless suffering in the world? We all need God's salvation!
Listen, suffering is a fact of life. Either you learn how to deal with that or you go under.
Vincent, like Claudia, is a member of the Silent Hill cult, but he has a very different take on things. Claudia is someone who wants to bring about her version of paradise, but Vincent is pretty happy on Earth as it currently is. Vincent is prideful, he is greedy, he likes the attention he gets and the money he gets from being a high-ranking member of the cult. He believes in the god of Silent Hill, so he claims, but really he doesn't want paradise to come about now, because he's pretty happy right now.
I don't want God to be born. Wouldn't be convenient. Much too unpredictable.
So he is squarely against Claudia, and he wants Heather to not give birth to the god. So you would think that he would be squarely on Heather's side and try to help her since, he wants the same thing as her, but that's not really how things play out. Instead, Vincent mocks her and he toys with her. Even though Vincent knows that Heather has the ability to birth the god that he claims to worship, it doesn't really affect how nice he is to Heather.
You're the worst person in this room. You come here and enjoy spilling their blood and listening to them cry out. You feel excited when you step on them and snuff out their lives.
Are you talking about the monsters?
Monsters? They look like monsters to you? Oh no. Don't worry. It's just a joke.
In a lot of ways, it feels like he views her as someone to manipulate. It feels like he views her as just another dumb teenager.
Well, the guest of honor has arrived. Let's get this party started. Heather, go ahead and kill this crazy bitch.
And it really feels like he views the events of the game as more of an annoyance. Stanley Coleman is a really interesting character because you never actually see him. Or rather, you do see him, but he's dead at that point. When you're in the hospital in Silent Hill, you go about it and you find all these notes left from Stanley Coleman. Essentially, Stanley Coleman is a character that is trying to get Heather to accept his love. He's someone who's projecting these crazy romantic fantasies on her, and he believes that the two of them are meant to be together. He believes that he's in love with her, and that means that she's in love with him. He believes that if he can just coax her a little bit, then she'll fall in love with him and things will be wonderful. This is an interesting take on Heather to me because of the fact that he doesn't really care about the entire birthing a god thing. He's in love with Heather and he believes that she loves him, and that's that. He doesn't see the power that resides within Heather. He sees her as the object of his desire, and later as someone who rejects his love, and that's it. And since you are playing as a 17-year-old girl, it just all feels so creepy and gross. In fact, there are points whenever you are playing through the hospital and it's easy to forget about the entire birthing the god aspect of Heather's character because of the fact that Stanley Coleman is so gross. And he doesn't say anything explicit, he's not a creepy weirdo in that sense, but I think it's fair to say that he is very much a creepy weirdo. He comes off as a loser, he comes off as gross. Anyways, that's Stanley Coleman. Leonard is Claudia's father, and he finds out that Heather does not like Claudia, and neither does he. So it sounds like the two of them will team up to stop Claudia, until you realize that Leonard doesn't like Claudia because his dreams for paradise are way crazier than Claudia's. Leonard perceives Heather as a liar. He sees her as someone who tricked him and who only wants his seal, but Heather interprets things a little bit differently.
Only we, who hearken to the voice of God, will be given the keys to paradise. Don't you think so, Heather?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and think whatever you want.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that I don't think the way you guys do. I don't want any part of that kind of paradise.
You're an unbeliever. You deceived me.
I didn't deceive you. We were both just wrong about each other.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Oh, I forgot your name.
Who are you?
Oh, okay, thanks. Happy birthday, dear. Who are you? Happy birthday to you.
The birthday caller is a really interesting character because all that you get from him is like one cutscene. He sings happy birthday to Heather and he can't seem to settle on the age that she is turning. And this of course is a reference to the fact that she's really three people. She's really Alessa and Cheryl and Heather. And like Vincent, this character, even though he knows of Heather's extraordinary background, he doesn't seem to have any respect for Heather. He toys with her, he mocks her.
Today is your 24th birthday. And I have a present for you. Which do you prefer? To give pain or to receive it? You can have the one you hate the most. Happy birthday to you!
But you're wrong. It's not my birthday.
And he refuses to explain himself. At one point on the subway, there's a birthday box you find with a shotgun in it. Some people have interpreted this as being a gift from the birthday caller, but really, it's unclear. All in all, the birthday caller is a minor character, so there isn't much to say about him, but I just find him interesting. Memory of Alessa is a character that is exactly what it sounds like. She's the memory of Alessa. She is the memory of Heather's initial form. In a note you find, the memory of Alessa recognizes Heather as being herself. She recognizes the connection between her and Heather, and she is confused, the memory of Alessa, is confused as to why Heather won't die. Because if Heather dies, then the birth of the god is off the table. It's simply not happening. So the memory of Alessa thinks that the easiest way to keep the god from being birthed is to kill Heather or to kill her new self in that sense. In the mind of the memory of Alessa, Heather doesn't matter as a character. I find this connection between memory of Alessa and Heather to be really interesting, because Heather obviously remembers what it was like to be Cheryl and she remembers what it was like to be Alessa. Heather, in remembering these things, has some emotions towards those memories, even if they weren't from her current life. Heather has an emotional connection to what it was like to be Alessa, or what it was like to be Cheryl. But this memory of Alessa doesn't have that same connection to Heather. While Heather has an emotional connection to being Alessa, the memory of Alessa doesn't have an emotional connection to seeing her new form in the sense of Heather. The memory of Alessa only sees her successor as someone there to birth the god, and doesn't see her as an actual person. Heather is able to defeat the memory of Alessa and is able to move on. Vatiel is a really interesting character to me. He is a servant of the god of Silent Hill. He's a kind of angel in a sense. In fact, if you die at certain points in the game, then Vatiel will show up and will drag Heather's body away. Essentially, whenever you load in the game and Heather is alive, that is Vatiel's doing as a kind of rebirth. Vatiel essentially cares about Heather because he sees her as the mother of the god of the cult. And since he is a servant to that god, he cares about making sure that the god of the cult is birthed. Towards the end of the game, Heather is able to swallow a red substance that is able to kick the god from her body, thereby relieving her of the burden of having to birth the god of Silent Hill. But then Claudia picks up the god and eats it, and so that way she can give birth to it. I don't know, it's kind of screwed up.
Claudia!
But then you see Vatiel drag Claudia away into this giant hole where he then births the god and dresses it and whatever else. But Vatiel doesn't have any words, he doesn't have any lines, he doesn't have any function other than to make sure the god is birthed, and he carries it through to the end. He's a very detached, distant creature. Douglas is the very first character Heather meets in the game. Douglas is a detective. He's someone who's been hired by Claudia to find Heather. He was told that Heather was kidnapped, and so he's out to find her. Douglas sticks with Heather as the game progresses, and he learns about her history. Upon learning some of this, Douglas wonders if he should kill Heather and thereby end the nightmare. But by the end of the game, after everything is resolved, Douglas sees Heather as a normal girl. It feels like the game hints that they're going to have a father-daughter relationship, especially considering that Douglas lost his son and Heather loses her father. Then finally we get to Harry Mason. Harry is Heather's adoptive father. In the first game, he fights through Silent Hill in an attempt to get back Cheryl, and he comes out with a new baby who he then names Heather and who he raises as his own. While we play as Harry in Silent Hill 1, we only see his corpse in Silent Hill 3. But we read some of the notes he left behind. We read his journal. The journals paint Harry as someone who is conflicted. He knows that his daughter, the girl he loves, could very easily birth a god that could destroy the world. There's even a note you find from Harry where, when he's looking at Heather as a baby, he wonders if he should just kill her so that way they don't have to worry about the birthing of a god. But Harry doesn't kill her. Instead, he raises her and he cares for her and he loves her. He sees her as someone special and he treats her right. He's a good father, he's a good man, and he tries his best in the end. And really, as cliche as it may sound, he wants nothing more for his daughter than for her happiness. He doesn't see Heather as anyone except his own daughter, who he loves very much. As Heather said in her response to Leonard's accusations, I think it's easy for two people to be wrong about each other. I think it's all too easy to look at someone and to just believe that they want the same wishes or desires as you, when in reality that may not be the case at all. And I think it's really important that Silent Hill 3 stars a teenager. I can't really think of too many other teenage survival horror protagonists, and certainly there are no other teenage protagonists in the other Silent Hill games. But I think it's really important that Heather is a teenager in this one because of the fact that it is all about identity. When you're a teenager, you have all these thoughts and ideas projected onto you and who you should be by other people. No one really listens to you. No one cares about anything you have to say. Everyone doubts your ideas. Everyone doubts that you know what you really want. And no one really sees you the way that you see yourself. At the start of the game, Heather doesn't know herself. Not really. She doesn't have any memory of Alessa or Cheryl, and she only regains it through the struggle of going through Silent Hill and through fighting the people who she does. Heather seems to see herself as just an average teenage girl, when in reality she's so much more than that. She has incredible powers, she has amazing abilities, and even though each person that she meets has a different idea of who she is, and even though their ideas are wrong sometimes, I still think that there's a little bit of truth to be gleaned in each person's ideas about who she is. I think it's only through facing these ideas that are challenging to her own perception of herself and her identity that she's able to figure out who she truly is. Or in other words, it's a lot like the idea that the best way to get a right answer is to provide a wrong answer. In some ways, figuring out who you're not can be just as beneficial as figuring out who you are. I think as with most teenagers, Heather at the beginning of the game doesn't really understand her full potential. At the start of the game, she doesn't know her true identity or who she is or who she could be. But through facing each of these characters and through grappling with her own ideas about who she is, Heather is finally able to come to an understanding of who she is and what her true identity is. It is through challenges to her own identity that Heather is able to truly discover herself. So thank you for watching, have a nice night, and take care of yourselves. Bye.